People describe him as gracious and tenacious.
I see Joe as a great mentor.
The person you go to when you want to know the real facts.
This is a perfect match between Joe and this job.
The Bay calls to me. I really feel fulfilled working to protect the Bay, and I'm hoping when I'm done, which isn't yet, that it will be a better, healthier place than when I started. If I had another job around here, I'd be volunteering for Friends of Casco Bay. But instead, I get to actually do what I love for a job. So I'm just blessed.
I met Joe because I got a phone call from the Friends of Casco Bay saying that they were hiring this guy, and they wanted to know how that worked. I said, it has to be somebody who really knows the body of water and will eventually be identified both symbolically and actually as the steward for that body of water.
No matter what the discussion, no matter how small or large the group, Joe leads his discussion usually with objectivity and obvious authenticity.
I always wanted to get back here and get a job here in this great marine environment. But I had been working in Maine, although headquartered in New Hampshire, and working in New Hampshire, Massachusetts. And we were up here on a weekend, and I picked up the good old Maine Times and read it, and I saw an ad. It said, the ad was from Friends of Casco Bay for a Casco Baykeeper. And I thought, Baykeeper? And I got the image of actually what the job is. I'm a guy in a boat, pollution, water. I said, wow, that sounds great.
He was the last interviewee that they interviewed, and he impressed them with an invisible, imaginary slideshow of Casco Bay, of how he would introduce people to the Bay and get them excited about protecting the resource.
The Waterkeeper Alliance works internationally. They're on 6 continents now. There are upwards of 190 waterkeepers like Joe. They're river keepers, bay keepers, sound keepers. I think there's even a swamp keeper somewhere, believe it or not. And these individuals really are charged with being the eyes, ears, and voice for their bodies of water. And it's been a very effective model. Many of them work differently than Friends of Casco Bay. Many of them have to spend a lot more time in court, frankly, than we do, and that's part of the difference in using a work with approach here. I remember reading articles about him being hired as the baykeeper with pictures of him in the middle of the bay in a boat expounding about the importance of protecting the bay, and I thought, how cool is that? That's very interesting to have one person who's going to be out there as a spokesperson who's really watching what's going on in the bay and working with all of the players out here around the coast.
Here is a place where you bump into people at the grocery store, or you're on the PTA with them at the school. Everybody's accessible. And we talk about Maine the way life should be. Everyone has some sort of environmental ethic. And usually, instead of suing someone, I can talk to them and they'll be righteous, in a righteous way, embarrassed by it. When people ask me about my connection to the Bay, and I like to brag, I guess, that my first trip on Casco Bay was in utero, that my mother was pregnant. I was born in November, so that whole summer I was going back and forth with my mother across the bay in my grandfather's boat. It's a wonderful way to grow up. It builds self-confidence early. I think it builds some competence in some things you do, but that being always close to the water and your activities connected to the water. Even if you're just standing by the water, scaling stones across it with your brothers and sisters, seeing who can skip them the furthest. That real connection to the water took, and it's something I've carried my whole life.
We first met in 1978, I think it was. It was at a sort of a field team meeting at the Hampton, New Hampshire office where he worked. 31 years later, we're still very happily married. He has that great ability to speak to so many different people on a lot of different levels to get them connected and passionate about it, about the cause. And how it just benefits everyone, to have that whole healthy ecosystem from the sediments in the bottom of the bay, through the bay, to the visual, to the whole economic impact that the bay has on the area.
Today, what really impressed me was how many birds we saw. Not only the sheer number, the flocks of birds, but the different species of birds that we saw. And I come back from that richer. Just thinking about that, what a great day, and how many birds we have, and that's an indicator of how healthy the ecosystem is. I think we're all water babies. Like I say, our blood is seawater, with a little coloring in it, I guess. And we have this connection, and you can see it. It's palpable. As I said, if you watch people by the water, if they're being quiet, and even whole groups of people can become quiet, and all of a sudden they're, for want of a better term, communing with nature. I've seen it happen on a boat where people are all talking and having a great time, and it's a sunny day, and then all of a sudden it just gets quiet, and it gets a little quieter, and people are looking around, and something's happening, and somehow it's feeding something in them, and I can't describe that, but I've seen it happen, and I think we all walk away from a quieter interaction with the ocean, feeling more peaceful ourselves. I ought to be able to pass on some great nuggets of knowledge, but I think first I would tell him or her, have patience. You can't fix things in a day. It takes time to build a relationship to allow you to fix it, but even then the fix is going to take a little bit of time, and if it's a pollution problem, stop the worst of it as quick as you can, but understand it's going to take a while before you feel done. I think otherwise it would eat you up. You'd always be angsting over not finishing it quick enough. So I think having patience would be one tip. And the other one would be, don't underestimate the value of the relationships you make, because they really allow you to make the changes you need to make, and they speed up the timeline. So I think it's about patience, it's about people.